Hello and welcome to Perfect Glamour Fashion. Today's tutorial is a continuation of our last tutorial where we learned how to make an overbust corset with scoop neckline. So I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric using the pattern pieces that we drafted in the last video. So if you've not seen that video, go ahead and see it. Okay. And when I was done cutting them out, I used cloth gum. I used black cloth gum for the black fabric. I padded it twice with cloth gum, and then for the lining pieces I padded them twice with pepper stay. Okay, now for the bust parts of the lining pieces, I also padded it with soft wadding. Now if you don't have soft wadding available, you can use gum stay, just that cloth gum, just that, or hair stay. Okay, it's just that you're going to have to pad it in multiple layers, but with wadding pieces I don't need to pad it in multiple areas. I hope you understood that. Okay, so I cut it to stop at the under bust region. So from the bust down, from the nipple point down to the under bust is where you are going to pad. When they're done doing it, the next thing will be to join your front pieces. Okay, there are about 5 pieces for the front. I'm going to join it first with pin before I move over to my sewing machine. I love doing this, especially if you're a beginner. Go ahead and join with pins before moving over to your sewing machine, so you don't get confused when you get to the sewing machine and you have to introduce your pattern paper to, you know, guide you on which one goes with what. You understand that? So I did the same thing for the back. I did the same thing for the back, both the back pieces and the lining pieces. So what we're basically doing here is to use the direction that you have on your pattern paper that we drafted earlier to go ahead and join the pieces. Okay, so I'm doing that for the main fabric for the front and the back, and then I'm doing that for the lining fabric of the front and the back. So when you're done using your pin to hold it together, you go on your sewing machine and then piece it together. Okay, so now I'm done joining my pieces together. I also went ahead to iron it open. I ironed all the sewing allowance open. Okay, I'm going to turn it so you can see the back, the way it's open. I ironed it flat open. You can already see the curve coming out. Okay, I did the same thing for the lining. You're already seeing the cup already forming. If this were a bustier, you can just go ahead. You have done padding for the bustier. Okay, so but then because it's an overbust corset, we are going to be doing bust caging. Now look very closely how to do this bust caging. It's actually very simple. I know you've heard of it so many times and it looks difficult, but it's actually simple. Now what you do is to just mark your sew line. The first thing is you want to mark the under bust line. Then you mark a line in the middle, your center front line. Okay, and then you mark your bust point all the way to where you want that area that shows your cup. Okay, that's where your lines will extend to. Then when you are done with that, the next thing you're going to do is, now this is the basic boning channels. Okay, you can even sew it like this. If your bust is not that full, you can leave this like this and you are done with your bust caging actually. Okay, but then if you want, you can still insert small lines depending on how busty you are or how busty your client is. Okay, so you can go ahead and add other lines after these basic lines, but then once you've gotten the first basic lines I drew, you're good. All right, so we're now going to push this out. You're going to push out this this lining, because this is how you to be facing it when you're putting it on. Okay, now when you are sewing in your sewable boning, we are using regeling bone for this. When you're sewing it in, make sure it's curving naturally the way that you would have wanted it to curve when you're wearing the clothes. You understand, like curved facing you, facing downwards. All right, I hope you understood that. Okay, all right, so this is me adding my regeling bone. I'm just showing you how I'm sewing it in. This is just a slow and steady kind of sewing. Okay, just so slow and steady. Make sure you don't drag the fabric or the boning. Let it just flow naturally, so that when you are done ironing, it can stand. You're seeing the way it's already standing. I'm not done placing my bonings. So let me use this opportunity and welcome you. If you're seeing my video for the first time, you're welcome to this family. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be alerted once I post any new video. We post videos every single week, and our aim is to make sure you become a professional fashion designer. To my OGs, I love you guys. Thank you for all your support and always engaging in my video. Thank you very much. All right, so I've also gone ahead to add sewable boning to all the dart legs, all the dart lines, okay? So go ahead and do that. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to flesh out this structure. Now, I'm using my hemming gum, right? I'm just placing my hemming gum across where I want the fiber to be. And then I'm just ironing it out. I laid over a lining fabric on it before ironing, okay? And then I used a lot of water. Now when you're done ironing, do well to trim out what is left. So the next thing we're going to be doing is to create boning channels, okay, for the main fabric. We're done with the lining now. It's the main fabric. Now I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can do this to create your boning channel. One, you can use Regeling bone, and all you need to do is to cut a 2 yards sized piece. Cut a long piece that is 2 yards in width, okay, and then put in your Regeling bone and place it on your sew line. That's your sew line, and sew. When you're done sewing, you cut out the excess and then turn it around and top stitch. Top stitch very close to the edge, and that's good. Now you can also use your plastic bone, and the way to do this is you will not place the bone inside first. You will just close up your 2 yards and then sew on exactly ½ inch, okay? You can iron this out and then mark ½ inch from the part that is on fold, and then sew it into your sew line and then turn it over and top stitch. Once you're done top stitch, you're still going to have space where your plastic bone is going to enter. But I'm not using any of these 2 sides. I'm doing an inbuilt corset kind of feel, okay? So what I'm doing is that I am going to sew on the sewing allowance that is inside. You see this sewing allowance that I opened up inside my corset, okay, inside my piece. I'm going to sew ½ inch by the sides. I hope you can see that. You can see how I chalked the ½ inch. I've already chalked the ½ inch to form a line. So I already have sewing allowance inside this. And so if you want to use this method, leave enough sewing allowance, leave up to 0.75 as your sewing allowance, okay, when you are doing your cutting. But then even if you use ½ inch, you can still achieve this. Now I also created another sew line, another boning channel in the center. Remember, there is no sewing line in the center, so I just created with that my 2 inches material, 2 inches width material, okay? All right, so the next thing I did was to attach the back pieces. Now if there is anything you don't understand, do well to ask in the comment section. I'm always in the comment section to answer your questions, okay? All right, so I'm also doing joining the lining pieces, the back of the lining pieces to the front of the lining pieces, okay? So once I'm done doing now that I'm done doing this, the next thing we're going to be doing, you can already see how it looks. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the lining to the main fabric. Now we're going to attach it front side facing front, okay? Now I'm done sewing. Can you see how it looks? And I always sew. If you notice, I added hemming gum as I was sewing, okay? So what I'm going to do now is to turn this open, turn this over to the front and iron. But before I do that, I like to cut out the excess. Now when you're cutting out this excess, please be very careful so that you don't end up cutting into your line, okay? I almost actually cut into my line when I was making this dress, okay? When I was making this blouse, sorry, okay? So just be careful when you are cutting. And then next thing you do is to notch. do well to notch very well. You know that this is a scoop neckline, so there is a lot of curve going on, so do well to notch very well. Notch the armholes, notch the back side and all of that. And now this is my attempt to turn this over. Actually, turning this is not very easy. Sincerely, let me not lie to you. It's not very easy, but I made it. I turned it over. I also went ahead to give this a good press, and in the process I almost burnt this clothes. Can you imagine? I almost burnt this blouse, but it's well. Okay, so are you seeing the difference between when it hasn't been ironed and now that it has been ironed? I also went ahead to join the back. Yeah, I joined the back parts with the fabric. Okay, so that's what gave me this look. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add my boning channel to the back, and to do that I just marked ½ inch sewing allowance. I just marked ½ inch from the center back and then ruled out the lines. I'm going to go ahead and just join this, and when I'm done joining, I'm going to insert the bone. I'm using plastic bone for the main fabric boning. Okay, you can use Regilene bone to do this. It's not going to be bad at all, but I'm using plastic bone. So if you're going to use plastic bone like I did, just look at how I'm going to do it. First of all, I'm going to place the bone and mark where my nipple points and my underbust is. Now I'm going to use lighter to soften the plastic boning. Okay, and now when I've softened it, I'm going to try to curve it to form that bust-like shape, and then for the underbust, I'm going to curve it upwards to form that dip. Can you observe what I'm doing to form that depth? You know, so that when I insert it, it's not going to look straight. That's why sometimes when you finish inserting your bone, your bustier looks straight. It's because you're not doing this. Okay, so this is hack. I'm giving you a hack, girl. Oh, man. All right, so I'm cutting out what I have left, and I'm going to go ahead and insert. I'm going to do the same thing for the sewing channels that I created. I'm going to do the same thing for all. Can you see how this looks? Like, can you see how this looks? Like, that depth is just showing, and I've not ironed this at this point, and it's still looking this relaxed. Can you imagine? All right, so I've gone ahead and ironed, and then I've trimmed out the excess for the down. And then can you see how it is standing? The bone is just clean. It's just so clean. Yeah, I'm still showing you where I almost destroyed the blouse I was making. All right, so the first thing we're going to be doing is to fold. That's our our long strip that is 2 inch in width. Okay, we're going to fold it into 2, and then we're going to sew ½ inch round the down area, okay, round the hem. And when we're done sewing, we're going to flip it over to the front, and then we're going to stop stitch. That's what I did here, and look at how neat. It's going to just look like you biased the mouth, and it's just looking so neat. All right, so this is going to be the end of this video. I'm going to go ahead and add my eyelets and all of that. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do give it a thumbs up if you did, and share it with your friends, and see you in my next video. Bye.